Hello and welcome back to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and I have been on the road this summer visiting a few hemp farms and businesses across the country, hoping to shine a light on the grain and fiber side of the hemp industry. Because in my opinion, that's where the long-term promise of hemp lies, in the grain and the fiber. The industrial applications, what we can make out of it, products, food, all of those things. But you know that because you've been listening along with me. So anyway, on the last episode I published, I was in South Dakota. We made our way from South Dakota down into Nebraska, and we stopped at the University of Nebraska Lincoln, where they are conducting hemp genetics research and also putting a lot of thought into hemp as an oil seed. So today's show is sort of a collage of interviews from my time there in Lincoln. We'll get into that in a minute, but first, a quick sponsor message from New Holland Agriculture. Hemp, the next frontier in agriculture, is here, and New Holland is ready to help you grow, harvest, and process. They're partnering with researchers, engineers, and farmers to continue to move the industry forward. They've allied with the National Hemp Association to swiftly return hemp crops onto farmland. And they're working hard to solve the unique challenges of hemp production. With decades of innovation in agriculture, New Holland can help you capitalize on this new frontier. Now that's the pioneering spirit. Get a head start in growing, harvesting, and profiting from hemp. Visit betterhempharvest.com. And of course, thank you to our ongoing podcast sponsor, IND Hemp. And a quick shout out to some of our other supporters, Midwest Hemp Council, Rosedowns North America, Bish Enterprises, and Victory Hemp. Thank you all for your support. We could not be doing this without you. When I arrived at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, I was greeted by Lorem Isom. He's the Assistant Director of the Industrial Agricultural Products Center. And also I was greeted by Robert Burns, who you might remember from episode 139. He represents Rosedowns North America, a company that makes expeller presses for oilseed, and full disclosure is also one of our tour sponsors. So those guys met me there at what to me looked like a cross between like a science lab and an industrial shop. You know, there was all kinds of technical equipment and also, big tables, and there was an overhead crane. And so they had put together this small hemp event for me, inviting a few university researchers as well as some folks from the Nebraska Department of Agriculture and some local news media. But the main event was the demonstration of the oilseed press. IND Hemp in Montana donated 1,000 pounds of hemp seed, which when I got there was already suspended from the overhead crane in the workshop. A big white super sack was feeding hemp seed into the Minimax 100 mechanical seed press made by Rosedowns. The press can handle about 100 kilograms per hour, separating oil from the seed. So let's first talk to Lorem Isom from the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. All right, I'm here with Lorem Isom here at the University of Nebraska Lincoln. Welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast.
Thank you.
So tell me what's going on here. What did we just witness today?
So we did an industrial seed hemp demonstration of expelling oil. So we used our screw press, mechanical screw press, to feed a hemp seed in and extract out cake and expel the oil down below. So we ended up having a product that's about 30% oil was what we analyzed it as coming in, and we expelled it through the expeller here. The product at the end probably has about 10% oil left in it, so we probably got about 20% or 80% of the available oil I extracted out in the oil, and then we can filter that and clean it up so that it looks like a clean oil, mechanically pressed oil.
Okay. Tell me about your role here at the university and the work you're doing in hemp.
Okay. So I work with the Industrial Agriculture Products Center, or is the center I work with within the university, and we're associated with Biological Systems Engineering Department. my role is as assistant director of the center. So we've got a director that is Dr. Wilkins, and he's a PhD researcher. We do research for him, and his research takes place in the center. But then we also try and serve as a service center for other researchers that maybe want to grow genetic crops or something, but then they want them processed. So we've expelled oil from camelina or other products that way. So from the hemp side, we're doing similarly that way, looking can we do the industrial processing of products that way. So that's primarily the role that I serve, is working as a service center and helping other researchers do their research. But then we've got grad students in this center as well that are doing research on lignin and fermentation and lots of other things.
Okay. Can you speak to sort of the state of hemp in Nebraska?
Yeah, so in Nebraska, I would say we're getting things started. There's other states, I'm sure, that are further along and more acreage planted and stuff. A lot of the focus so far has been, at least on the industry side, has been on CBD, looking at what can they cash flow right now today. We like to try and at the university think a little bit further down the road, what can and be a good cash flowing process as in the future, and can we get at something that's scalable to our traditional agriculture here in Nebraska, where farmers are operating thousands of acres, and when you're processing for CBD, it's very labor intensive in the harvest, and even in the processing it's different. This is something that could be scaled like soybeans to where it might be thousands of acres or is planted, hauled with semis, is providing a feed product for livestock, and then the oil going primarily to vegetable oil
right.
for the human consumption.
And that infrastructure for grain production is already available here in the state, right?
Yeah, that's one of the nice things. We see that the plant itself could be a nice rotation into the corn soybean process. And it's a true oil seed. Soybeans 20% oil this year would be in the 30s, is 30 plus with the right varieties. So then you might have the option for fiber from the stock. So I think it could be a dual purpose crop and really fit into the ag economy really well here in Nebraska. And especially we've got a lot of variety in Nebraska, from the east side where we get 30 inches of rainfall to, as we go further and further west, we're down to 15 inches of rainfall a year. So somewhere there's probably a sweet spot right. where industrial hemp could work better than, say, other crops. We do a lot of irrigated, but it's selective spots that have irrigation, so maybe it can fit in other locations that don't have the option for irrigation.
Okay, what kind of challenges does the hemp industry face here in Nebraska, apart from rainfall?
Yeah, so I think it's like starting any new industry. There's going to be adaptation problems for sure, and users wanting to know, well, be assured of the market where can I market it? With corn, it really can be pretty simple. Sometimes you can forward contract parts of the crop. You overproduce or produce more than you anticipated. You can market it afterwards. That might not be the case with a new crop. You might have different prices depending on how you do it. And then agronomically, I'm sure there'll be some challenges as well, from how does it fit into a rotation, and there hasn't been anybody really looking very much at the agronomics of it in Nebraska. So that's one of the things we'd like to see going as well. That wouldn't happen here. Here we'd look more at the processing side, and then it's more what can we use, find higher value uses, and that might come from the plant side, the stalk. Can we find a use for that cellulosic component?
Okay. How about from like a policy perspective? Can you talk about how either how the governor or the Department of Agriculture is embracing or not embracing hemp?
Yeah, so that's it. As far as going there, we've worked with the Department of Ag to get licensed as a processor. Growers, I know, have to do their license. We haven't been as involved specifically with that, so I don't know the challenges they might have, but it's a slow process. Anytime we have new industry come into play, there's a lot of concern in the combination of hemp and marijuana, and what's going to lead to what, or their side objectives. And we look at it as an alternative crop, and thinking of it as a animal feed crop, much more like soybeans, and want to focus on that emphasis of it.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for having us out here today. It's been great to meet everybody here at the University of Nebraska Lincoln.
Well, thank you very much, and I want to thank I&D Hemp for supplying the hemp seed that we processed today, and we ran through about a ton of it today through our Rose Down screw press. So.
All right. Thank you. All right, so you can tell from that interview that we were standing right next to a road. There was a little bit of traffic going by, so please forgive me for that. So now let's check in with Robert Burns. He's a representative from Rose Downs, and he's been involved in pressing oil and selling presses for a long time. He lives up in Lyons, Nebraska, where he raises some livestock, including some pigs. And if you remember from the earlier episode when I interviewed him back in June, we talked about hemp-fed bacon, which is illegal to sell, but it's not illegal to produce and give to a podcaster. So he did bring me a cooler of hemp bacon, which, yeah, it's delicious. So thank you, Robert. Anyway, here's a quick conversation with Robert Burns from Rose Downs. Robert Burns, how are you?
Good. Beautiful day.
Yeah, where are we today?
We're in Lincoln, Nebraska at East Campus in UNL. Is the camera on?
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know if I should be looking at it
look at me.
or not.
Let's
Okay.
wait for this guy to go by.
We are in Lincoln, Nebraska at East Campus, where we're doing some work with hemp seed today, pressing oil out of seed and showing folks the process of doing the separation.
Okay. And you're with Rose Downs.
Rose Downs supplied the equipment and has been very involved both in cold press technology for a lot of years, and more specifically now with hemp seed.
Okay. If, let's say, a hemp producer in Pennsylvania or anywhere else is interested in getting into crushing seed for oil, what's the best way for them to get set up?
Well, you need a business plan and markets for the offtake materials that are produced, of course, on the paper side. And then once you're ready to go, you should look at, your tonnage and your operational tempo, 24 hours a day, 8 hours a day, those kinds of things to help size the facility and the equipment infrastructure that you would require to get you there. Okay. Rose Downs is a great supplier. Before I was involved with Rose Downs, we were selling the small machines for years, the solid shaft type machines for a long time, and they still have their place in laboratories or in small pilot programs. Those small machines work great. But if you're looking to step up and enter the commercial arena and get some tons through, you need to go to that next level. And I think Rose Downs makes some of the best equipment out there.
Okay. And Rose Downs was also one of the sponsors of our tour, so I thank you for that.
No problem. We're glad to support you. It's a great effort.
All right, here comes the truck. All right. Well, thank you, Robert Burns. Appreciate your time, and thanks for having us out here in Nebraska.
Thanks for coming and making it happen.
So then I had the opportunity to talk to Dr. Ishmael Duikat. He's a professor of plant breeding and genetics, and you can tell he's super excited about hemp. I guess his area of expertise had been sorghum and millet, but since hemp came online in Nebraska, he's all in. We took a quick walk over to the greenhouse where he does his research and had this conversation. Again, I apologize for the noise. There's some fans and whatever, but... So, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Ishmael Duikat. I'm a hemp sorghum breeder here at the University of Nebraska. I've been doing hemp breeding for the past 5-6 years, and I'm still doing it, so I hope we'll keep doing it for a long time.
All right. What sorts of things are you learning about hemp here in Nebraska?
Well, my main focus is to develop varieties of hemp, grain, fiber, and CBD hemp that are adapted to Nebraska and the Midwest area. Because most of the hemp varieties, at least that we were exposed to a few years ago, had to come from Canada and Europe. And these varieties are not really adapted and do well here in our environment because of the day length. Hemp is a short day sensitive. So when the day is short, it flowers. So if you get it from Canada, they have long days. When you put it in Nebraska, we have much shorter days than Canada. So the plant sense it and start flowering. So what I'm doing is actually taking advantage of the wild hemp that we have in Nebraska. Nebraska has the largest wild hemp collection in the whole US. And this hemp has been here for at least 150 years or more.
Oh, okay.
And so year in and year out, the weak plants die, and the plants that tolerant and resistance to drought and insect and low nitrogen survive. So what we are getting the adapted best plants that we could use and integrate in our breeding program. So I bring these plants, grow them in here, and then screen them for plant shape, seed size, and then try to cross them to some of the adapted line in here. So we don't have really to do so much of the cleaning process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you work with farmers?
I do. Actually, it's for the past 5-6 years, I receive at least 3 to 5 phone calls a day for farmers asking about how to grow hemp, where to get the seed, problem they have. And I would tell you that last year and the year before and the year before, I had more phone calls than this year. I mean, also last year because of the COVID, not that many farmers growing it, but I usually get 3-4 phone calls a day or text or people asking about how to grow hemp.
Okay.
And I also go visit the farmers after they grow the seed and see if they have any problem, if they need any advice on how to handle the crop.
Okay. If you can look into the future of agriculture in Nebraska, will hemp be part of the rotation for
Hemp
farmers?
is going to be part of the rotation. It's starting slow, and it's going to be slow for a while till we have enough processing facility for fiber and grain. So farmers, when they grow their crop, they want to make sure that somebody's going to buy it at the end of the day. So now we are maybe 200, 500 acres in the whole state of Nebraska. But as time passes by and we have more avenues to sell this products, there is so much interest in growing hemp. And it will be an excellent crop for rotation between soybean and corn and wheat. Yeah. So yes, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we are going to see hemp becoming an integral part of, but you see that also we need the Department of Ag in here and the federal government to loosen the grip on the THC, because 0.3% THC, I mean, if we get drought or low nitrogen, it's going to go up.
Sure.
So I think it has to be flexible.
Right.
And I think if we don't get it up to 1% approval, the farmers are going to be most of the time worried, especially for the CBD market.
Right.
Like we have in Nebraska last year, they destroyed about 20 acres out of 200 because the plants get hot. So, and I'm hoping as the government and the state regulate and approve marijuana, then there will be no problem.
Right.
Then hemp will be like corn and soybean.
Right, because if you're growing for grain or fiber, you don't care about the THC at all. There's no THC in the grain.
No, there is no THC
Yeah.
in the grain, and in the plant, it started to be very low when we started.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not, the plant doesn't have the tendency to accumulate cannabinoids and CBD and THC
Right.
when you grow it for grain fiber. And that's what will be here for Nebraska, as I mentioned earlier, because we have a lot of feral hemp, wild hemp. The only market we have to grow hemp is for grain and fiber. I mean, you could grow it for CBD, but you have to contain it in greenhouses.
Because it'll get pollinated by the feral hemp, right?
Or you have to grow it late in the season or too early of the season to escape the pollen from the
Right.
wild and feral hemp.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Could you tell me your name one more time?
Ishmael Duikat. I'm a professor in agronomy and horticulture. I teach class on hemp. I work with sweet sorghum as a source of energy too, in addition to hemp.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So Nebraska was great. The people were warm and friendly, very, very receptive. We came in from South Dakota, so I think we came down Route 77 from Sioux Falls, I think, and we drove through lots and lots of corn. We drove through a couple of Indian reservations. Winnebago, I think we drove through their land. I was keeping an eye out for feral hemp. I figured I might see some from the road, but I did not. I had first heard about the feral hemp in Nebraska from Andrew Bish. You remember him. He's with Bish Enterprises in Giltner, Nebraska, and also Hemp Harvest Works, and he's the vice president of the Hemp Feed Coalition. And I kept running into him on this tour. You know, we were out in Kansas back in the beginning of July, and Andrew and his younger brother Jacob were there. They were like on their way to Texas, and they stopped in at this open house there in South Bend, Kansas. It's great to see them there. And then a few weeks later, we were in Fort Benton, Montana, and it was Monday evening, the night before the big event with the whole hemp industry. My family and I and Ken Elliott were tubing very slowly down the Missouri River, and we see two people up on the bank waving to us, and there they were again, Andrew and Jacob Bish. They had just rolled into town, and so it was great to see them there in Montana. And then I was hoping to see them in Nebraska. I wasn't sure if we were actually going to get to Giltner or not, but the way the schedule worked out, we went to Lincoln, and the Bish boys came out and met us there. And so Andrew has been on this mission to see if it's possible to make, you know, textiles from hemp. Like, I know we know it's possible, but is it economically viable? Is it a thing that we still have the technology for here in the United States? And so he's been on this mission all over the country, and he's found some people in Pennsylvania, of all places, who were able to, you know, spin the hemp into yarn. And so here in Nebraska, I caught up with him about that. Andrew Bish, welcome back to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Yeah, so we saw you a few weeks ago in Kansas with
Yes.
South Bend Industrial Hemp.
Uh-huh.
And then last week we saw you in Fort Benton, Montana.
Floating down the river.
Right. And now here we are in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah.
And this is more your home turf, right?
Yeah, this is close to home.
Okay. And so you've got something exciting to share, is that right? What do you have there?
Yeah, we just got this made in actually your home state, Pennsylvania. But my good friend Corbett actually helped me decorticate this material, and then we got it processed and spun in Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So what we got here is a really nice
Yeah, hold it up. So there you go.
yarn.
Okay.
We got a 30% hemp, 70% wool mixture here, and ultimately the way that we had this yarn built, this would be something that you might want to make a scarf out of. And of course they can make yarns of a variety of types. Believe it or not, there's a lot of different types of yarn out there. But anyway, this is real. So this was grown in the United States, decorticated in the United States, processed and spun all in the United States. We didn't go overseas for any of this material to be made.
That's amazing. That's possibly the first of its kind in many, many generations.
There's been a couple people do this, but in very, very small volume. So I'm definitely not the first. You know, I tribute John Lupian, actually from here in Nebraska, doing the first since probably the 50s.
Okay. Now, how easy will it be to scale that up to, you know, use it for manufacturing?
So that was actually the question. That's why I went out to do this, not because I don't even know I don't know how to weave or spin or do any of this stuff, but I wanted to understand the supply constraints, and it's going to be very complicated actually. Even though we found a path to do this, we've got a limitation on the path that we're at right now of about 12,000 pounds a day, and that's not a lot of material. to get through. And so, well, the reality is, if you want to go to scale, 12,000 pounds a day is really nothing if you look at the cotton industry. And it's going to take a lot of infrastructure build out to be able to make this work on a bigger scale.
Do you think it's worth it?
I think if you're willing to pay a premium on the fabric, you'll find a market there, but we're not going to compete at this point with the cheaper clothing manufacturers and using traditional methods.
Right. Okay. Anything else you want to share with us?
No, just that this is cool, and it's exciting. It's exciting to touch something that was made in America. You know, when people said this can't be done. Yeah, it's expensive. It costs a lot of money to do this, but at the end of the day, I think we learned something, and the more of us out there that are trying to do this type of thing, the faster this market's going to explode.
Okay. So is that the world's most expensive ball of yarn right there?
I think possibly. I definitely think possibly.
Can I ask how much investment went into that?
Yeah, and I want to thank the spinners, because at the end of this, they did it for free. I think they felt bad for me and all that I went through, but I think what I'm holding in my hand is somewhere between about $8,500 and $10,000 worth of travel and time expense.
All right. Well, thank you for your work.
Thank you, Eric.
All right. Talk to you soon. So that was Andrew Bish from Bish Enterprises and Hemp Harvest Works and the Hemp Feed Coalition. Like I said in the beginning of the show, there was also some news media there. There was a journalist from the local TV station, a guy by the name of Alex Whitney. And here I'm going to play the clip that he made. And so we were on TV. You know, it's not every day you're on TV, and it's definitely not every day you're on TV in Nebraska, at least not for me. So, yeah, thanks to Alex Whitney for putting this together and getting us on the TV.
We're all familiar with some of the popular hemp products like CBD, but there are so many more uses for the plant, and here at the University of Nebraska Lincoln, researchers are trying to find the best way to fit hemp into mainstream agriculture.
This is not like growing CBD, and it's definitely not like growing marijuana. It's big ag.
Advocates for the hemp industry have been seeing hemp blow up across the country with popular CBD products becoming mainstream. But while consumers and processors are buying into the industry, there still is one important component missing to grow it further.
We're going to have to start making more things out of plants and being less dependent on oil and plastics and things like that, and can't do it without farmers. So that's been the mission for me, is to get out there and shine a light on the grain and fiber side of the hemp industry.
For the last few weeks, Herlock has been touring the country, checking out the hemp industry nationwide and sharing details about how hemp could fit into big ag, just as easy as other staple crops like corn and soybeans. He says hemp grown for fiber and seeds has thousands of different uses and can be cultivated and harvested using combines just like typical crops.
So there's not a THC in here. We're interested in getting the oil out that could be used as a cooking oil or other product there, and then the meal product, which isn't currently approved for animal feed, but potentially could be used as an animal feed aid for livestock that would be high in protein and low in oil.
ISOM, along with the other folks at UNL's Industrial Agriculture Products Center, are researching the best ways to incorporate hemp into industrial and commercial products. They say the potential for hemp is there, and that with a focus on seed and fiber production, the industry could be scaled up quickly.
It's actually very simple. So the seed press that we have here is made by a company, Rose Downs, in the United Kingdom. They actually make larger versions of the thing that we have here, but you can use similar speeds, similar feed rates, and calculate how much oil you can get by using larger feed rates, larger screws, using what we have here.
So definitely plenty of uses for the hemp plant, and it seems that it's just going to be a short while until it gets industrialized and really makes its way into the bigger picture of agriculture here in Nebraska. Reporting here from Lincoln, I'm Alex Whitney.
So when the event ended there in Lincoln, my family and I, we packed up the RV and we hit the road. We had not been this close to Pennsylvania in over a month, and we were all champing at the bit to get home. In fact, my wife and kids wanted me to skip Nebraska altogether and just head from South Dakota straight home, but we couldn't do that. So I'm very grateful for the time we spent there in Nebraska, and I thank everybody at the University of Nebraska Lincoln. But yeah, then we drove west. We got on Route 80 and we got through Iowa, and we made camp in western Illinois that night. And then the following day, last Wednesday, we drove all day long. All day long. We pushed across Illinois. We got stuck in traffic around Chicago. Thanks, Chicago. And then we found ourselves in Indiana, the crossroads of America, and we just kept going. We got through Ohio, and finally, at like 1:30 in the morning last Wednesday night, we made camp in Mercer, Grove City area of western Pennsylvania. And I was actually sleeping on one of the chairs. My wife was driving, but I woke up when I heard everybody cheer, "We're in Pennsylvania!" And it was great. It was great to be there. So we made camp that night, and in the morning, we went out to a hemp farm and watched them harvest fiber hemp that is going to get used to make houses and flooring for Don's Services project in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, the project PA Hemp Home, and I will tell you all about that on the next episode. That was exciting. It was a great place for our homecoming. It was great to just be, at the project PA Hemp Home while we were home finally in Pennsylvania. So more on that next time. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for listening to this show. I apologize for the sound quality issues. Podcasting from the road is not an easy thing to do, and I am looking forward to bringing you more episodes from my little home studio here, because that's where I am right now. I am back in Pennsylvania. I am so grateful to be here and so grateful to have gone on this trip. So I thank Lancaster Farming Newspaper especially for believing in me and letting me do this crazy thing. If I were to do it again, I would do it so differently. But, you live and you learn. Oh, so one other thing. A few weeks ago, I mentioned that our cat died. Daisy, may she rest in peace. We did eventually tell the kids that she died. We were in the Badlands of South Dakota, which, if you've ever been there, it's quite a place. So anyway, that seemed like the right place to tell them. There was much grieving, and she was a great cat. But that very same day, our neighbors found us a kitten. So when we got home last Thursday, we have a new little kitten waiting for us. His name is Hiccup, and we are now in the market for a second little kitten. So while there was much grieving, there has also been great joy. So just thought I'd bring you up to date on that. Anyway, my name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. And be sure to check out lancasterfarming.com for extra content. There's video from all of the stops I made across the country, including today's episode. You can see that oil seed demonstration, take a tour of the greenhouse, all that stuff. You can see Andrew Bish and his expensive ball of twine. So all that at lancasterfarming.com. Thank you all for listening to our podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode from the Project PA Hemp Home. And until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp.
This episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2021 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show is written and recorded, edited and produced by Eric Herlock, and any music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow. And yes, I know what you're thinking. We need to get some new music. We need fresh music. So I'm going to put in an order with the Tin Bird Shadow, get some new stuff soon.